In today's dynamic landscape, the fusion of image intelligence with geospatial solutions stands as a transformative force, revolutionizing ESG initiatives while catalyzing the next-generation economy. By harnessing the power of image intelligence and its integration with geospatial solutions, we gain unparalleled visibility into environmental ecosystems and human activities. From monitoring carbon emissions to assessing biodiversity, from accurately mapping supply chains to identifying sustainable sourcing opportunities and monitoring environmental impact, satellite imagery offers precise data crucial for ESG decision-making. Furthermore, image intelligence empowers investors to make informed decisions in the next-generation economy. By analyzing satellite imagery alongside ESG data, investors can assess climate risks, evaluate social impact, and identify companies poised for long-term sustainable growth. In this new economic paradigm, image intelligence plays a pivotal role in shaping resilient and equitable societies. Together, we embark on a journey towards a future where image intelligence transforms ESG practices and propels the next-generation economy forward.
Let me hand over the next session to another rock star of the geospatial community in the United States. So let's bring Nadine Almahe as the moderator of the next session.
All right, we are in business. You should see my panelist eyes when Sanjay was talking about dancing and whiskey. I'm like, what did we get ourselves into? So great to have you here. Thank you, Sanjay, for bringing us again as a community. So I was watching earlier, Rhonda started her panel asking people to raise their hands if they're new, if this is their first time, and then Mark was like, stand up and meet somebody new. And I was actually thinking, should I energize the crowd with a little dance? But I know better. This is the geospatial community, and we have to wait for the gala. Yes, so that's the deal. So I'm Nadine Alamy, the Executive Director of the Taylor Geospatial Institute, and I'm very excited because I've been to this event for many, many years. This is my first time as the representative of the Taylor Geospatial Institute, and I'm happy that we're also institutional partners with Geospatial World and with this community. You probably haven't heard much about the Taylor Geospatial Institute because it's a new institute and it's all about research and it's all about geospatial. There are many exciting things around this concept of a new geospatial research institute. So we wake up in the morning driven by scientific rigor, right, by data, and by impact to society and the planet. So I'm very happy to be moderating a panel on impacts and ESG. The other exciting thing about this institute is that it's in the middle of the United States in St. Louis, Missouri, and it's very unique to me. Everybody has been talking about 25 plus years in the geospatial. I'm not going to tell you how many years I've been, but in all my career, I haven't been in a place like St. Louis where everybody is living and breathing geospatial. So I would definitely invite you to our booth. Greater St. Louis has a booth there, so you can see what we're talking about when literally everybody, government, industry, academia, research, philanthropists, people on the street are actually talking about geospatial. It's very exciting. And I'm there because I'm trying to harness our collective knowledge to do good, right? And again, that's why this panel is actually very fitting for what we're trying to do. This panel about geospatial and ESG. So we're trying to do great things, right? We're modernizing technology, applications, domains, but we also want to do it responsibly. And ESG is the way to quantitatively measure, right, this accountability. E, examples. So how do we track or measure our actions from corporations to governments, energy use or waste management or the pollution impact of decisions and systems? S for social, how do we impact community engagement, displacing people because of projects, labor policies, et cetera, G for governance, so this is the company, the corporations, policies and labor laws and standards and auditing and compliance. And it's all, if you're a geek like many of us here in the room, data and geospatial data at the heart of it. We're helping with transparency and scientific verificability, and my favorite word, accountability. Now, we have 5 amazing panelists that will tell you all about this. We have a government representative, a not-for-profit representative, and 3 industry representatives, and I guarantee you we will run out of time. So it's going to be very quick. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. This is how the story is going to go. I'll introduce them very quickly. They'll get on stage. We'll give each one of them 5 minutes to say welcoming remarks, essentially. And we'll ask them, I'll ask a couple questions, you ask a couple questions, and everybody's happy? Yes? All right. So I'd like to start by introducing and inviting to the stage Mr. Colin Lowe. He's the Chief Executive of Singapore Land Authority. Singapore Land Authority, SLA, is driving Singapore's national geospatial development. And I believe it because I've been there, and when you go and see it with your own eyes, collaborative visionaries, digital twins, infrastructure, innovation, positioning Singapore as a leading geospatial player through international engagements, partnerships. So it's not just technology, it's not just applications, it's a global collaboration. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Colin Lowe to take a seat. Nice to meet you. Thank you. All right, so he is our government representative. Let's go through our industry. So I have the pleasure to introduce Ms. Beatrice Mulianataki, and she is the Chief Commercial Officer of Meridia. Now, I was chatting with Beatrice earlier. What you don't know about her, and you will know a lot if you ask her any questions about sustainability and verificability, is that she was the head of sustainable sourcing at the Hershey Company. She knows a lot about chocolate, you guys. So she has over 2 decades of experience in agriculture, food, beverage sectors, and now at Meridia, they're an ag tech company specializing in data verification for smallholders, compliance in cocoa, coffee, and palm oil, and really a champion in sustainable supply chains and global transformation. And just a pleasure to chat with. So welcome, Beatrice. By the way, it's her first ever geospatial event. Not just the geospatial world, geospatial. So we're definitely bridging world here. Welcome. I'd like to introduce next to the stage Mr. Motoyaki Arai. And he is the founder and CEO of Synspective in Japan. Synspective is no stranger to us. They design, build, operate a fleet of SAR satellites. They've been awarded the J Startup Impact by the Japanese government. Congratulations. And I was reading, checking their website, and I love this because it says, as a mission, together, we're going to build this data ecosystem that will transform how we as humans manage our environment, natural resources, and exposure to risk. So I'm very honored to welcome Mr. Motoyaki to the stage. I told you, they're amazing, just amazing. So our last but not least industry representative is Mr. Anup Jindal. and he's the CEO of RMSI India. It was a pleasure chatting with Anup because he'll tell you the story of how he got to RMSI is all ESG. So it's fascinating. They are bringing the digital and the physical world together. And if you want to talk about geospatial in any domain, energy, utilities, transportation, navigation, mapping, sustainability, land, infrastructure, definitely, you want more, check out their website. It's full of amazing use cases that are very relevant here. I told you we're going to run out of time. So welcome, Anup. And last but not least on our panel, the not-for-profit angle here, Mr. Greg Scott. He's the executive director of the SDG Data Alliance. Most of us know Greg from his long career at the UNGGIM because he was the lead secretariat for, I don't know, since 2011. He is behind when you hear about us talking about the IGIF, the framework, the integrated geospatial information framework. He's actually the lead author. He's with us here, which is great. And now at this SDG Data Alliance, he'll tell you about what an open, community-driven, multi-stakeholder partnership can do to bring globally recognized geospatial frameworks and GIS to developing countries to accelerate bridging us all together. So I'd like to welcome Scott to the stage. Hello, welcome. So shall we give every one of our panelists a few minutes to tell us why they're here and why it matters so that we can then follow up with some questions, difficult questions? Yes? So Mr. Colin, do you want to kick us off? I believe you have some slides, and you're welcome to use the podium.
I'll sit here, it's fine. Thanks, Nadine. Good afternoon. Nadine mentioned that I am the government representative. The problem I face is I don't think like one. Because I've always been in the private sector, I think from a private sector perspective. I arrived this morning after a 13-hour flight from Singapore. I think you'll feel bored listening to me, so I've got a short video that kind of encapsulates what SLA is doing. We are the National Geospatial and 3D kind of a mapping agency of Singapore. So crew, could I trouble you to play the video, please?
Ever wondered how the navigation apps in your phone identify your location and guide you to your next destination?
The answer is Geospatial, which is location-based technology and data that is powered by real-time, high-precision positioning. In Landscar Singapore, we seek to overcome our urban challenges through innovative use of geospatial technology and data.
Geospatial data and technologies power Singapore's Smart Nation agenda. Ensure national security, drive business efficiency, enable sustainability, and offer greater convenience. As the National Geospatial and Mapping Agency, SLA is not only pivotal in capturing, maintaining, and providing nationwide geospatial information, but also in driving Singapore's geospatial development. The provision of fundamental geospatial information, such as land ownership boundaries and terrain, supports diverse applications, enabling a smarter, safer, and more sustainable Singapore.
For example, researchers from National University of Singapore Centre for Nature-Based Climate Solutions utilize airborne laser scanning data and imagery from SLA's National 3D Mapping Program.
Laser scanning generates 3D data known as point clouds from the reflected laser pulses of objects and landscapes. SLA's highly accurate 3D data enables researchers to efficiently estimate the carbon in Singapore's nature areas and parks. This in turn helps Singapore's various government agencies in their work to protect and restore Singapore's green spaces.
Our geospatial expertise is also used in climate monitoring and mitigation research.
The Singapore Satellite Positioning Reference Network, or SIREN for short, is Singapore's global navigation infrastructure network of 10 stations, established and maintained by SLA since 2006. Researchers from Nanyang Technological University's Earth Observatory of Singapore use these reference stations, located in coastal areas, to monitor rising sea levels.
The siren stations help us monitor both land subsidence and rising sea levels. We use direct signals from satellites to track how the land moves up and down. Additionally, satellite signals can be reflected off the sea surface. By utilizing these reflected signals, we can measure sea level changes over time. These continuous high-precision measurements provide valuable information for future sea level projections and allow Singapore to formulate measures to better protect our coastlines.
Siren's real-time centimeter level precise positioning is also used to establish property boundaries to support a robust cadastral system,
And can ensure precision in construction and piling works, making it crucial across the logistics, mobility, and construction industries.
The mainstreaming of geospatial technologies beyond business and technical uses has brought benefits to Singaporeans in their everyday lives, from supporting preventive healthcare through social prescribing to building a more inclusive society. Thanks to a pilot project that maps out barrier-free routes on one map, Singapore's authoritative public service map. Wheelchair users and the physically challenged can now easily navigate their way around selected areas in Singapore with knowledge of potential slopes and blocked pathways.
In the past, it was necessary to go and either ask friends or look around, do a pre-check to find out whether a place was accessible. And even when you get to the final destination, right, you're not even sure whether or not you'll be able to locate the ramps. With one map, it highlights barrier-free routes. It makes it more convenient for users to use that to navigate around.
As a frontrunner of geospatial technologies, Singapore aims to promote adaptable and scalable urban geospatial solutions and actively foster a vibrant geospatial ecosystem locally, regionally, and internationally. This allows us to share Singapore's geospatial capabilities, supporting global geo-empowered communities. To inspire the next generation of geospatial innovators, Singapore has spearheaded several youth engagement initiatives for students, sparking geospatial interests among youth, both locally and overseas. The future of geospatial innovations has just begun.
Join us as we pave the way for a smarter, safer, and more sustainable geo-enabled world.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. The talents in the video are all my SLA colleagues, so it's all in-house. Happy to take questions after everyone is over there. Thanks.
Sounds great. Thank you. So let's hear from Beatrice. It just works. It just magically works.
Good, thank you.
So your first geospatial conference?
Yes, exciting. I'm missing the chocolate though. Coffee is here, but next time maybe they can also serve some chocolate. So very nice to meet you. My name is Beatrice Mulianitaki. I lead Meridia. We are an agriculture technology company with our boots on the ground in Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Indonesia. Our headquarters in Amsterdam and back office also in Lithuania. We have about 100 people on the ground that work daily, engaging with farmers, collecting complex smallholder data linked to supply chains, as you mentioned earlier, Nadine, cocoa, coffee, palm oil, soy, and now also entering into rubber. In my former role at the Hershey Company, I set up the global sustainability strategy, and one of the big challenges I faced was engaging with suppliers in trying to do the right thing. Because businesses now need to not only stay in business and grow in business, but it's also becoming serious business, especially now also with legislation around the corner. But one of the big problems I was facing is that a lot of the data that I was receiving, I was not able to verify how much I could really rely on it and how to make evidence-based decisions. Now, this is very important when you're talking about trying to halt deforestation, trying to alleviate farmers out of poverty, trying to halt child labor. You really need to know whether the data is right, whether the data is accurate, reliable, consistent, and plausible. One of the hard learnings I had is that you can have amazing technologies, amazing traceability systems, but if the data is not right, you get garbage in, garbage out. So this has been my motivation to join Meridia and to spearhead our innovation called Verify. It's real-time verification and compliance so that decision makers, such as traders, procurement, sales, sustainability leads, can take decisions upfront before they go into commercial contracts to understand whether they should buy or not buy. Is there a reputational risk or not? And this started with an idea 2 years ago, and 2 years later, we just closed. You can look at www.meridia.land. I'm sorry, I don't have any slides. But you can see our press release that we just closed our investor round for 5.2 million euros. Backed with one of the investors is, in fact, the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, who you might know from the New York Stock Exchange. How do we engage also with them as one of our strategic clients? With Verify, we are actually their internal verification engine. So ICE is an example who's wanting to raise the bar to support deforestation-free cocoa and coffee entering into the European Union by end of December 2024. And they decided that the bar needs to be high for these traders before they are allowed to use their new commodity exchange. So we actually, something that we started as an idea, all of a sudden became very useful for ICE, and we now act as the front door. I call it like, how do you call it, the person checking at the discotheque whether you're cool enough or you're on the VIP list, but we do it in light of serious business now, that if indeed your data does not comply with regulation, if indeed you cannot show that your cocoa or coffee is deforestation-free, produced legally, with accurate data and traceable, you can actually not make use of the services of ICE. Now, this is an example I just wanted to share with you of a use case which actually is going to be used also at scale for 3 million metric tons of cocoa and 3 million metric tons of coffee entering into the European Union so that we can all enjoy the cocoa and coffee that we drink in Europe and rely that compliance has already been checked early on in the supply chains. So I bring the bottom-up perspective in the panel, and thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yes. So shall we hear, so let's hear from Motoyuki about the synspective perspective. Ooh, I like that.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. I'm very honored to join this discussion. So maybe some of you remember me and synspective as a winner of the Startup of the Year, maybe 2 years ago, I think. And yeah, I was so drunk, and I appreciate the taste of wine at this moment. So you can enjoy that tonight, I think. So anyway, yeah, after that, the synspective, they finally have the 4th satellite in the last month. And we provide the solution and data with our satellite. And then we try to change, as you mentioned, we try to change the world, data-driven and collective learning-based world. So this is our data product. So as you can see, the left hand, you can see the Haneda Airport. On the right hand, you see the Imperial Palace. It's Tokyo. This one shot by the synthetic aperture radar satellite, small synthetic aperture radar satellite, can cover over 1,000 square kilometers at once. And this data was captured under a cloudy day. So the satellite can capture data under any time and any weather conditions. So it's very useful for the machine learning or the computer-based analytics. And of course, we can sell this data to the governmental users directly, but we also provide the solutions through the analytics and with this data. So could you go to the next one? Yeah, so it's described here. So we have two services. The first one is SAR data sales to currently mainly to the defense intelligence sectors, especially governmental sectors. And the service two is, as I mentioned, is analytics solutions for disaster risk management. So maybe for the insurance companies like that, and also infrastructure. AEC stands for the architect and engineering and construction. And the last one is energy resources, including the mining companies also use our analytics, like the next page, please, like these solutions. Next page, please. So from right hand, our analytics can identify the land deformation or the huge infrastructure deformation in millimeter order. So it's very useful for the sinkhole accident assessment, or it's very good for mining operators to keep the site very safe. And in the middle of this view graph indicates the flood damage assessment. Of course, it's useful for the insurance companies, and also it can contribute to the rescue activity. The constellation can provide very high frequency data, so we can know about the actual damaged area situation immediately after disaster happening. So it's very helpful for that. And the last one is forest monitoring. It's contribute to the carbon trading like that. So through this analytics provision, we're gonna make the analytics platform to understand whole Earth environment and human being economic activities. At least next 4 or 5 years, we're gonna have 30 satellites constellation, and it can provide anywhere in the world within several tens minutes, and including our analytics, I think we can provide the 30 minutes solutions, answers of this analytics. So I think we can change the world, but the only perspective we cannot do this. So the collaboration is the key to, the data fusion and analytics, combined analytics and analytics network, analytics platform network will be very important to see, to understand, and to change the world together. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much. By the way, this is one of, yes, definitely, please. This is one of my favorite parts of geospatial, because we're talking about the Earth and about human beings, and then you see Japan, Singapore, Netherlands, and now India. So Anup, do you want to tell us about, you talk about commitment to this. Anup definitely is a representative of a journey. Yes, please.
So thank you. I would like to bring the focus more on the less developed communities and less developing countries, which are so-called global south, something I'm not very fond of, but hey, that's what it is. But I would like to talk about the real impact on these communities, especially on how we are projecting the climate change and what can be done about it. This is not driven by compliance or regulation, but rather this is driven by survival. And I think our industry, especially geospatial and extended in the space, we have a huge responsibility in that sector. And RMSI has been over the last 3 decades doing a lot of work in this area. What started off as a research at Stanford University in the area of earthquake risk modeling has now been extended to a wide-ranging capability in, you can go next slide, please. Yeah. So go next. So now it extends across the world. While we work with some of the world's largest companies in geospatial domain, we have about 7,000 people worldwide. We're one of the largest companies as a geospatial integrator. But what really drives us is a sustainability practice in which we are working with some of the poorest communities across the world. Go next. Across the world, we have substantial experience of working in Africa. In fact, one of the largest portfolio of experience in Africa, Southeast Asia, in which we bring in the practices of combining the geospatial data, Earth observation data with analytics and then modeling, and then combining that with work on the ground. What we see across the world in these communities is the likely impact on the livelihood, because what we see, the crops which are being sown now, they won't be viable in the future. What we see that the communities which are increasingly at risk because of natural disasters and the poverty cycle, because it's a downward spiral, is crippling. If we don't act fast on adaptation and mitigation there. And what we also see is all about job security. So these are so many areas which we try to address through our services and offering in all of these areas. We also, of course, work in the more developed nations in ESG consulting and talking about reporting disclosure. Go next. Just to give you an idea of all the countries that we work in, and we're very proud of this. While we don't make much money, we invest a lot in this work, but we benefit a lot because of the ecosystem that all you've been talking about. And we are very excited about this, and we expect to continue for many years to really make an impact. So that's in short. And I would really like to have more discussion on what we can do, especially on a South-South cooperation model, where we can work with these communities to make them more resilient to the upcoming climate risks. Thank you.
All right, last but definitely not least, the not-for-profit perspective, the global perspective. Greg?
Thank you. Thanks, Nadine. I'm waiting for the whiskey, actually. I could do that right now. Okay, so I'm a geographer. I'm a geomatics engineer. I've been doing this for 40-something years. And now I'm working for a media and communications NGO. Completely different. Public foundation, you can just look at our website, and it's PV, BLIC, Foundation. We do global campaigns for development and development impact, and the focus is on media, communications, and data. So, for example, at the UN General Assembly each year, Public Foundation convenes the SDG Media Zone. It convened the Dino Dinosaur campaign for climate and not ending humanity. We work with organizations such as Formula One, with NFL football teams, and with other big global players. And I'm only learning all this. I've only been there for a few months. But something else we do is work in the development area with some of the most least developed countries in the world. And this is what's known as the SDG Data Alliance. And that's an alliance of partners, philanthropic and donor partners, helping developing countries to build geospatial capacity and geospatial capability. And it's all focused on building ESG towards impact and sustainability for national governments, from right at a national level down to a very, very local level. So it's really about turning all of that media and that communication and that philanthropic funding and resources and dedicating it into the developing world, specifically, as Nadine mentioned, for things like implementation of global geospatial frameworks such as the IGIF, but also building data systems and data hubs for these countries. And it's really about walking with them. We walk with the countries hand in hand And it's really about building capacity and knowledge. We walk with them, we talk with the countries, and that knowledge transfer takes place. Now, another example of what we're doing, and we're just about to embark upon at the end of this month, is convening the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States in Antigua and Barbuda from the 27th to the 30th of May. And our foundation is involved in the convening and the logistics and all of the bookings and arrangements, but it's also involved in establishing a centre of excellence for SIDS and a global data hub for SIDS. And that's really about how we get over the next decade, and Joseph gave some really good examples of data that's out there at a global level, how we can scale that down and how we can bring that information, make it integrated and accessible and usable for SIDS over the next decade. And so a new program of action that has a big focus on data and geospatial data and Earth observations is how do we empower and how do we use ESG as an impact motivation for these countries to become more sustainable. And we think about the 39 SIDS around the world, they have some of the lowest populations, some of the greatest oceans, and they have the greatest vulnerability and the least resilience. And if we think about climate, that's one aspect. If we think about disasters, that's another. But there's the ability for them to look at tourism and living off their oceans and looking at sea level rise and how they manage their lands and water intrusion and saltwater intrusion and land degradation. How does all that work? And I think there's an opportunity here for all of us over the next decade to see how we bring down all that data that we talk about. And Joseph highlighted really well from an ESA perspective, how do we make that available into the future for a lot of our, as you say, our global south, our developing countries. So I look forward to this discussion. Thanks, Nadine, and look forward to the whiskey.
The gala, people. Thank you, Greg. So we started late, so we have 5 minutes. Yes, I'm getting the okay. Yes, all right. So I told you we're gonna run out of time because I could listen to them for like a whole afternoon. So I'm gonna ask like this very quick question about not just the challenges, but also pick a challenge. I heard data, garbage in, garbage out, field verifiability. I heard when we were discussing earlier, capacity building. I heard the divide between the global south, the developing world, and the developed world. So I'd like to ask each one of you to pick a challenge. It could be anything, but don't just tell us what it is. Tell us what we can do. You have ears, you have hands, you have brains from all over the world. And it has to be also, quick. So let's start with, yes, please. What are you?
Okay, so from the viewpoint of the business player, especially satellite operator, recently we can get some of the satellite in the orbit actually. So we can provide the data. But actually the open data discussion is very major in this conference. But actually I really, ask you to know about the data production needs a huge cost. In advance of the launching, we have to spend several $1 million and launching as well. So launching needs another several $1 million. So the huge data production means the very huge cost in advance of this system development is needed for that. So I think it's one of the biggest challenges to, deploy the data for many academic players and NGO and non-profit organization, I think. So some of the solution will be mentioned here.
Go for it. No, this is perfect. I know, one of the challenges is data sharing for disasters, but I love that you hit on the research and the academic community as well. Colin, pick a challenge and tell us what we can do.
I must confess, I'm no geospatial expert. I'm a complete layman, as some of you folks would have remembered in Cambridge conference in Oxford. 3 years ago. I think one of the main things that I find is a challenge is a lack of awareness from the main public outside of this community. And what we have done in SLA is that we have launched a geospatial master plan for the next 10 years. This is together with our sister agency, the Maritime Port Authority, on the water side. But one of the key tenets of this geospatial master plan is mainstreaming. As you can see from, as you have seen from the video, that's what we're talking about. You know, geospatial data, the expertise for geospatial need not be limited to just urban planners planning the city, but really different segments of the citizens can benefit from it. You've seen, you know, barrier-free access to be more inclusive, really talking about mapping, curb-free mapping for this group of people. And in order for us to facilitate that, we worked with the transportation, the train station, we worked with the owner of the retail landlord, worked with the wheelchair-bound folks to see how best we can do this. It cuts across to healthcare, to education, to sustainability. So once we have done this, in fact, what the team in SLA has done is that to find a champion within some of these sectors, you find a champion, you find a convert that uses this, and it produces a case study, a solution. That's what gets people attracted. Give you a different spin, you know, we typically post all our MOU signings on our SLA social handles, be it Instagram, be it LinkedIn, be it Facebook. The recent MOU that we signed with a healthcare group, when we put it on the SLA LinkedIn, you'll be surprised by how many comments were outside of the geospatial community. It came from a doctor who posted, "Well done, what is geospatial all about? How does it help you? How does it help him?" Another doctor commented on it, and now we have got a new captive market of white space that previously we have never heard about geospatial. So it's about enabling, it's about mainstreaming. Yeah.
That's great to hear. I think this is definitely a call to action for all of us to translate what we know to all this wider world who could benefit. Thank you, Colin. Beatrice.
You just stole my challenge, so I needed to quickly pick another one. But I think the challenge I wanted to bring forward and share with you is that I cannot speak about individual clients that we support. What I can speak about is the research that we did amongst 21,000 farmers and their polygons in Côte d'Ivoire. And it showed that on average, between 30 to 40% of the data was not reliable. So why is this important? Because it is the same data that, you know, goes into your systems, and it's what you're basing your analysis off. So what I would like to give to you as a gift is to create awareness in your organizations that to not just accept the data coming in as being good, but to really stress test it, validate its accuracy. I mean, we are really specialized in agro-commodity data, smallholder linked, but I can imagine that this is also relevant for other areas. So for more expensive technologies like remote sensing and satellite imagery to be used, I think that we first need to get the data going in to get that right. And if I just may add, and this goes to your point about mainstreaming, we need to make technologies affordable and usable for dummies, like me. And I tell my team, if I don't understand the portal that we're developing at the moment for these decision makers in companies, then who are we serving, right? They do not have GIS specialists in-house. We are catering the non-GIS specialists, the non-expert, but they are the decision makers. So the other gift I'd like to give to you next to check your data quality is who are you serving and is it dummy proof? Thank you.
Thank you. Anu?
You have your own.
This is building very nicely, totally unchoreographed.
I think the big challenge is in capacity building because, you know, we do all kinds of analysis, you know, sometimes funded by the World Bank and other agencies. But, you know, the communities to whom we are advising, they are the best to come up with the solutions. And that's where we see there's clearly lack of funding, there's clearly a lack of resources which are there. And how do you empower these communities to come up with their own solutions? And therefore, what we've seen, especially also in reliability of data, if you build capacity locally, the data quality improves drastically. And so on and so forth. So that for us always has been a huge challenge. We always see that higher resolution data from different sensors, higher quality data is usually not available at an affordable rate or even for free for most of these communities. And all of these are needed really for building the capacity to empower people to address their own problems. Thanks.
Sounds good. I feel like you also took Greg's point, so now he has to think a bit harder about the next challenge.
No, it was actually a piece of all that's just been said before me, and it's really what we're seeing is demystifying to decision makers and political leaders what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. They don't understand, they don't have the awareness, and it's really critical, and that's what I like doing in my role, is that we communicate that message and that demystification of what's necessary. They know what the problems are, they don't know what the solutions are. We do, but we have to be the translators for that, as everyone's just said.
Fantastic. And nicely, I think, grounding everybody's points. Thank you again for all the panelists, for your contributions, for what you're doing to get us there. I love that we're focused on doing good. And there's a lot of work to be done. So this is a journey. We need to work on the return on investment for the private sector. We need to work on capacity building. We need to work on awareness. We need to work on data. And we need to work on, I like this, demystifying what we do. So this pathway from geospatial to policy. I hope you are taking notes because this is our collective homework. And with that, I thank you again. And enjoy the next panel. Thank you, panelists.